Clarity comes from commitment to continuity, meaning that you stay on one course until
instant gratification and, there's this change of mindset. What is your story there? When was it for you?
everything is in constant motion, and to be at the effect versus the cause is led by clear intention. So, and I kid you not, this is how your future is created.
Hey beautiful people, it's Vivian Ruggiero, and I want to thank you, and please thank yourself for being here. Before we go into this episode, I invite you to join this channel to hear more episodes that will help you create a more meaningful life full of freedom, purpose, and deep, true relationships. All I want you to do is click on the subscribe button. I love your support, and I can't wait to go on this journey of discovery with you. Thank you for subscribing. It means the world to me. Hi, Casey. Pleasure to have you today on this podcast, the One Freedom Formula podcast. How are you doing?
I am doing phenomenal, Vivian. Thank you so much for having me. I am very much looking forward to having a conversation with you, knowing that freedom is a passion of both of ours.
True to that. Actually, where are you right now? You have to tell us where you are right now. Which country are you in?
Yeah, I'm located in Ontario, Canada. Born and raised in Canada.
But are you right now in Canada, or I think you were in Mexico recently, no?
I was in Mexico. I just got back to Canada last Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, that's good to hear. So, just to define for the people that are listening us, how would you define freedom for you? What is freedom for you?
For me personally, I would define freedom as the ability to trust your intuition and to effectively lead yourself towards what you desire most, to cultivate all that you want. And it's a daily investment. It's a daily commitment through action. And you commit to freely expressing yourself regardless of the perceptions of others. Expressing your full truth is the ultimate freedom.
So there is a word that you have been using that is generally felt as antagonistic to freedom. And in several episodes, we spoke about that word, but I think it's an important word. It's commitment. Generally, commitment means you're not free to do everything you want. You're committed to do something. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would say without commitment, there's no clarity in the direction in which you're heading. So you're essentially a ship without a rudder.
So clarity, that's a good word. I think that's an important word, like clarity. When we speak about freedom, that people have always heard this, it's doing whatever I want whenever I want. And I think that's a misconception. You would agree on that. It's kind of like, if you don't have clarity of exactly what you would do and where you're going, how can you actually define you're going the right way? As you said instinct, and you said clarity, which is, how do you manage that on your side?
Well, I would say clarity comes from commitment to continuity, meaning that you stay on one course until achieved, and really focusing on what is it that you want and following that course, like I said, until achieved, meaning reviewing it every single morning. What is it that you need to do within that 24-hour block and staying consistent with it? So that's one area I find many of us humans experience resistance with, is we want that instant gratification. We want it to happen overnight. And we fail to follow through with what we want because our old way of being or our thinking and feeling creep in, the self-doubt creeps in, and we feed into that paradigm, which pulls us back into old patterns and in turn refrain from true freedom.
That's not the thing. Instant gratification, and there's this change of mindset. What is your story there? When was it for you? How did that happen that you came from, the before to the free Katie that we have today in front of us?
I love it. I love it. Well, like I said, it's a daily investment. It's a daily commitment. And so I come from a background in education as a former school teacher. And in that role, I absolutely loved working hands-on with children, though I realized as free as I felt getting my summers off and having the pension and the health benefits and all of that, I didn't feel free at the end of the day. I still was experiencing burnout and I was unable to sustain that long term. So from there, I experienced what I like to call a quarter life crisis. And I was required to pivot and actually went on a medical leave where you and I connected, Vivian, within the Jay Shetty coaching certification. And from there, I deep dove. So actually in the midst of the pandemic too, I was blessed the book, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. And that's where it all started. And I started questioning, why am I feeling the way am I feeling? Why is it that I feel unfulfilled? And I feel that there's two ways that we can change: from inspiration or from emotional impact. And through inspiration, repeatedly studying the same thing. So having these types of conversations, I feel, is very important so people don't have to experience the depths of pain that some of us have gone through in order to pivot. I believe that we feed into this idea of, comfort, wanting to stay where we're at, but that defies the laws by which we're governed. Everything is in constant motion. Everything is in constant change. So rather than being at the cause of my own life, I realized I wanted to be at the effect of my life. So from that point forward, Vivian, of pivoting, of diving into the coaching realm, asking important questions, quality questions, I gained clarity that was going to impact the quality of life I moved forward with. So not only did I have a passion to pivot and positively impact my life in making that daily investment to freedom, but also being able to inspire others in doing so for them to not experience the emotional impact that I had gone through.
I think another word for emotional impact is pain. That's what it is. It's pain. And what I've seen and learned is, and I think you would agree with that, we human have a big tendency of chasing pain for change.
Yeah.
Like if we don't have enough pain, we're not changing that easily. And then, there is this simple statistics about New Year's resolution that never last more than 2 months for 95% of them. Because we're not in a state where you want them enough. And when things are painful and you need to change from them, we both have been hit by the pandemic in a different ways. We both ended up at Jay Shetty certification, at Jay Shetty coaching school, and then we basically take a kind of the same road. After that, we have two different roads. But the thing that I've seen with that pandemic, the pandemic was a great equalizer on that. And I don't know if you feel that, but for me, everyone has at least at one point feel one layer of pain. Could it be loss of work, loss of family members, the depression of being stuck at home during quarantine, or there was a small amount of pain for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And some people changed, some didn't. So, as you said, you were in a place where you had to change. You had depression. You got the book, it's a great book. I love that book, Think Like a Monk. I actually had his new latest book also, The Rule of Love. This one, I don't know if you have seen this one. If you have read this one, The 8 Rules of Love.
Yes.
So I had a chance to meet him actually in Singapore for his book tour. But yeah, the one thing that I found really inspiring, and then what you're saying and what I feel the same, is when you get out of your pain and you start being into that transformation state, you feel so enticed to share it with other people, to help them become that. And what form did it take for you in the last 6 months? Like, how did you go from, no, let's say after Jay Shetty, how did that go after Jay Shetty's call, which was like 2022, if I recall correctly, for you also?
It just seems like a whole time warps, like these last 4 years. Just like, it all just seems like it was all happening at once. So since the certification, you're going into the abyss, you're going into the unknown. So the discomfort is a constant, right? And getting comfortable in the discomfort is the game changer to ultimate freedom, I feel. Because, like I said, everything is in constant motion. And to be at the effect versus the cause is led by clear intention. So what I mean by that is, since I graduated from Jay Shetty, is I had all of these, we could say baskets, we could say golden nuggets, we could say shiny objects, because we all have shiny object syndrome. And I kind of dove into a bunch of them all once again at the same time. And I realized real quick that in order to reach that freedom for which I was yearning, for which I was desiring, I was going to need to put my eggs all in one basket. Okay? So that doesn't mean only one stream of income. That means simply one goal, one course of action until succeeded, until achieved. And then so from there, I realized I was doing one-on-one coaching as well. I realized that as much as I enjoyed working with individuals one-on-one and seeing the reward, like it was so rewarding to witness a transformation in one person and being able to have that connection, that synchronicity, really forming that love, trust, like, know, all in one, versus having a classroom, say, of 30 kids. I wasn't able to build that rapport as I did with one-on-one coaching. But like I said, I realized that there was only one of me, and with the lifestyle that I wanted to create when it comes to freedom, the money stopped when I stopped. And I needed to adopt a system that was going to repeatedly and perpetually create a financial economy for myself, where I was going to be able to live when the money continued to come in rather than stopping when I stopped. And so I have also been able to help a lot of people. So I'm still being able to impact people in the way that I envision. I've simply just adopted a proven system where I can contribute actively, and then I'm also taking that capital that I'm building and then reinvesting it into my ideas to, publish a book, and do things along the line of human potential, because we all have infinite potential.
Publish a book. That I'm interested. I want to know more about that book. What's the topic?
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
Well, I really have a vision of shifting the conversation from mental health to human potential. I noticed in the last 4 years of the conversations that I've shared with individuals that there's resistance and a negative bias when it comes to the term mental health. And even when you talk with youth and adolescents about it, they completely shut down when they hear that word. Or they think anxiety, they think depression, and all of the negative words associated to that. Versus when you hear of human potential, people are typically inspired. People are more engaged. They want to learn. They want to take the lead. So really shifting that conversation, I believe, will give not only adults, but younger generations a sense of empowerment and autonomy to take the responsibility to lead and really bringing it all back to freedom. Because ultimate freedom comes from radical responsibility and leadership.
I like that. That would be a great book. Like, mental health has been, that people want to admit or not, mental health is clearly a topic that is lacking awareness, lacking conversation about. So I love any ideas that change the narrative into a potential conversation. Like, I'm just finishing the publication of my book, The Art of Conscious Transformation. Because as you said, everything is about consciousness. It's about continuity. It's about accountability. It's about awareness. So, yeah, I'm going to be the first one to read your book when it's out. I hope. I'm going to encourage you on that. And I'm going to take you accountability there. I take accountability with you. I'm going to go with you and say that. I'm actually writing my second book right now. And I think there is so much important thing that could be put on paper. Mindfulness, leadership, as you said. All of those need a better conversation. So I'm really happy to hear that you're going that way. Now, I have one question. What do you do every day to keep that freedom dream for being just going away? What is the first thing that you do every morning that gives you the first freedom of your day?
Routine. Well, we thrive off of routine. So habit tracking, getting that instant gratification and that dopamine hit by, having that habit tracker of your productive actions, being able to check them off and like celebrating yourself. Oh, that feels good. So I would say that always gets me on the road to success. I write out my goal every single morning and, meditate on that, really feel into it as if it's already here. And that gets my flow going. I really just focus on, I like to call it my high vibe toolbox. So anything that will bring my vibration up, knowing that we're energetic beings, I'm going to do. So I have a nice shower. I'll go outside. I'll move my body. And I have non-negotiables. I have my habit tracker. I have my non-negotiables. And as long as I do those things throughout the day, I know that I did what I could to get myself closer to my goal, which is ultimate freedom, fulfillment, and happiness.
Yeah, I think tracking things, like I track my body every day. I have the Whoop. I track everything: sleep, energy level, exhaustion, all of that every day. I think what you're saying there is really important. We have to track everything properly, and we have to have our non-negotiable. But the one thing is, it requires a lot of discipline, and it requires a deep, feeling of why you're doing it. So how do you keep that on a daily basis?
I keep that on a daily basis because, as I mentioned, I write out my goal, but I also write out why. Why am I doing this? Why did I make the decision to pivot in the first place? I had a lot of pain, right? In that last season of life. There's nothing to go back to. I've burnt all that down. So now that I've moved away from the pain, the only way to go is forward. So, I mean, you have to have a big burning desire and a big why. And as long as you can emotionally involve yourself with that on a daily basis, it's easy. It's easy to keep taking action.
Yeah, I think There is a book on that, Simon Sinek book. Why is the driver of humanity is the driver of what we're doing? So when you look at your story, when you look at your past, all the pain that you had, and know where you are, if you were to look at that and as an objective person, not as yourself, but as an objective person, what would you say was the, I would not say the change in freedom, because at one point you were working with kids and you loved it, and that was your freedom, and that was who you were. Where was the change of, identity coming from? Not the pain, but the deepest why. Is your why the same, or did you change your why, or did you evolve?
The shift in my identity. Well, I would say my why has always been the same. I mean, even when I entered education, it was always to shift the conversation around mental health. So I would say, yeah, my why has always been the same. The shift in my actions to get closer to my purpose and my goal they've shifted because I realized in that vehicle that I was not going to be able to make the evolution, make the movement happen in that role. I didn't have the influence, nor could I add the value. So always the same why. However, the transformation occurred because I hit rock bottom there. There was a lot of pain points, and I had to pivot from that.
That's important then. I think that's what you're saying is your why was always there. The application of your why is a difference, which for me it's a great thing to know, because the why can also change during life. For example, for me, at one point, my why is just my family, taking care of the family, taking care of my kid, my wife, all of that. At another point, it was, just achieving as much as possible. And no, it's been about helping people transform as much as possible and helping them to have a greater life. Because like you, during COVID, I had all my pain and problems, and I got myself out of it. No, I would love for people to be able to, get out of it. And I know how mental health discussions goes, as you said, they are not positively taken most of the time. And when you say, hey, you need to change, it's not always easy thing. And then coaching, we both know that is not always looked at as something that people knows, or some people that are like, oh, that's what we want to do. Mostly, generally, what happened is like, oh, coaching, what is that? I know what a psychologist is. I know what a psychiatrist is. I don't know what a coach is. Is it a sport coach? What do you help people do? And being able to switch and to make people understand that the most successful people in the world have a coach. The most mental healthy people have a coach. They do, because they need the support. They need the accountability. So, looking at that, what would you say would have been at one point one of the strongest challenge that you have had, and how did you really overcome it?
The strongest, most potent challenge that I've experienced would be in relation to the way in which I perceive myself. So self-image. And in order to get new results, you need to become a new woman or a new man. So you need to perceive yourself through a new lens. That's why I write out my goal. I write out my why every morning. And I write out a self-image script. How am I talking? How am I walking? What do I wear? What do I eat? All of these different things. And it's constantly being updated. Okay? So a lot of us tend to identify with our past self, associated to past memories and stories that we've told ourselves and have actually rooted and stemmed from emotions and being in the same room with a number of people with the same conversation, yet experiencing something completely different, right? So really getting clear on what I was identifying with and what I was making certain things mean, and the stories that I was telling myself in my mind that was keeping me from achieving new results, I had to let go of. So regularly, I also do sacred burns. So any sort of way of thinking, acting, behaviors that are no longer in alignment with my goal, I'll burn them as a symbolic process. And then on a separate sheet of paper, I write out the attributes, the characteristics of my new being. And this is a constant process, like I said. So the upgrade of the self-image has been part of the solution. In addition to doing the work on a daily basis is what instills the self-worth.
I love the self-image script. I think I want to steal that one from you. So, can you give us an example of how you would write a self-image script?
Well, everything is relative to the present moment. So I no longer identify with my past self. I identify with my present self, meaning that each script would commence with the words, I am so happy and grateful now that I have dominion over my emotions, over my prosperity, over my business. I love the environment in which I find myself, getting to go to the beach daily to watch the sunsets. I am calm, poised, serene, and I enjoy having conversations with leaders of the realm of health, joining podcasts with Vivian, and being able to meet Jay Shetty in person, to shake his hand. And all of these things that you desire, you write into your self-image and into your script. And I kid you not, this is how your future is created. I've written so many things down that have already happened. It's insane, the power of pen to paper.
I love that. I think, one thing that I wrote in the book, the mind doesn't see the difference between what you think and the reality. So when you're able to think it, it's able to make it happen. So I love this too. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to try it. I don't do it on a daily basis but I used to do it like once a year. But I think trying to do it every day and reminding you and reinforcing it, it's a good one. I love it. I'm definitely in my new toolbox. Gone, stolen. Let's not speak about that. No, but without a joke, and you say something pretty significant. Is like you have your daily thing. Like you are every day at the beach. You go every day, doing certain things for yourself, and you have accomplished a lot of the things that you wanted to do. If you look at all of that, how do you think your future self will be different from yourself today in terms of freedom?
how will my future self be different from my current self
Mm-hmm.
in relativity to freedom? That's an interesting question. I would say, it's a matter of, I don't know if she'll necessarily be drastically different. I would say just ultimately better in the sense of my health, just anything that I can consistently and constantly make 1 degree shift is like, that's why I ask myself every day is like, okay, how can I do better today? And as long as I do better than the day before, then I know that I'm getting to that future self. So different from today, my future self, I see her, she's going to have long hair. I've been growing my hair out, so she definitely has some long hair. And then, just more, I'd say more, a higher level of confidence, more, what is the word that I'm looking for? Consistency in eating healthy
Mm-hmm.
foods. That's one thing that my old self keeps pulling me back into. I love my
I hear you.
chocolate, so
I hear you. I've been bad at that.
yeah, yeah. And then I would say, greater ability to impact and travel because I'll be at a greater level of financial health.
That's nice. That's nice. And how do you, when you pursue those goals and this higher version of yourself, how do you match that with your other responsibilities? We all have different other responsibility. For me, I have my family. For you, you have your families, your friends, you have responsibility, and I do also have. So how do you manage the equilibrium, the balance between those?
That's a really good question that I feel a lot of entrepreneurs and business-minded people contemplate. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for asking that question, Vivienne. I believe that each of us have to develop a strong enough self-image of knowing who we are and where we're going in order to present ourselves correctly with our other responsibilities, meaning that no one can shake us from our vision. No one can shake us from our tree because we're so definite in our purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can still have relationships. We can still have connections to our families, though we have really communicated in a clear, respectful manner that this is who I am, this is where I'm going, these are the boundaries, and anything beyond that will be dismissed.
Yeah, boundaries.
And
This is yeah.
I was going to say boundaries, and then also that clarity will allow you to, I always like to say rejection is protection, and the impression of others no longer matter. They slip off you like a duck because you're so aligned with your truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think boundary is really important. In several of the episodes, we're speaking about that, like being in a couple, being a parent, being an entrepreneur. All of that have uh, need for those boundaries. But they're not easy even for us. You put them, but it's not always easy to keep them. It's not always easy to enforce them, because I don't really like the word enforcing, but at the same time you need to. So does it happen sometimes that you're like, hey, this is my freedom, this is my why and who I am, but there is this thing, and the boundary is getting difficult to maintain for a potential time. Did that ever happen to you?
110%. We're all human, right?
Yeah. How does that work for you?
So to be completely honest, my perception with where I'm at right now is when those kinds of experiences occur, it's God testing you. It's, the devil coming out. And it's, obviously when the devil comes out, he's not going to give you occasions and experiences where it's easy to say no. It's going to look good. So you're going to want to say yes. And that's why it is so clear for you to be in alignment with your goal, your vision, to know what looks great and what looks good. So you can differentiate between the two. And every time that I have caved into something that looks good and I've disregarded my boundaries, even for myself, not even to do with anybody else, it pulls me under. And when I say pulls me under, I like to think of, our timeline, not chronologically, not linear, it's cyclical. So when I get pulled under, I go a little further back in my orbit, but every time I go a little bit further forward, and every time you go back, Vivian, you never go as far back as you previously were. So the lesson will be gained eventually, but it will continue to repeat itself until you have the awareness to prevent it.
Until you learn your lesson, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And what future, because we're speaking about the past, but what future do you envisage for yourself and in terms of, helping people gain this, not mental health, as you said, but this human potential and this, freedom? What future do you envisage for yourself in that sphere?
Well, my ultimate intention for this line of service, the work that I'm doing, is to provide as many conscious interrupts as possible. Having these conversations, actively asking questions for people to have that conscious interrupt, just as you and I did through pain, reading a book, we're able to start thinking in a different way. So, I'm 30 years young, and that means I have 30 years of programming that just because I've pivoted and I'm working towards a new course of life, towards freedom, doesn't mean that I don't experience those previous patterns. So just because you turn directions doesn't mean it's going to all happen overnight. And, walking down that new road, you have to do it every day. And I'm saying this with the intention for the future of, we all have the responsibility. We all have to do our part as contributing members to society. So the longer you deny it, the more pain you will experience. The pain is inevitable. And, I think embracing the impermanence of life, acknowledging that everything is temporary, gaining clarity that everything's going to occur in your lifetime for a season, a reason, or in fact, the lifetime. So my envision long term, I would say, is being able to have these open dialogues on podcasts with other leaders, being able to be of service of any sort. The intention is just to get the good word out there, ultimately, through podcasts, through speaking on stages. I'm actually heading to New York on Tuesday for a women's leadership conference. And, books. But I'd say word of mouth is the most potent way to communicate and to have those authentic conversations. Because if you're not having that word of mouth and people aren't passing that on from one trusted source to the other, then no one's going to know what you're doing behind the closed doors if you're publishing books and recording podcasts.
That's true. That's true. There's a lot of, like books, podcasts, courses, all of that is great, but nothing is as good as human interaction. At least for impact, I would say. Now, I have one last question. If you had one strategy, one tool that you said for people, hey, this is the one thing you would apply today to start getting more freedom from everything in my experience, what would it be?
Make a decision without asking for permission, meaning that you're going to trust yourself for once in your life and listen to your heart space, make one decision and run with it. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And you follow that decision until you see it through. That's the key to freedom.
I like that. I think, indecisiveness. No, how do we say in English? Indecisiveness is killing us, literally killing us. It's not helping us going forward. Well, Katie, that was a real pleasure. Now, how can people get into contact with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, great question, Vivian. So to find me, you can reach out on Instagram. Divine Warrioress is my handle, but if you even look up my full legal name, you should be able to find me. And then I've got Facebook or email, and we can I'll give you all that information so you can add it in the bio.
Oh, that will be there. Well, thank you, Casey. That was an amazing recording today. It was really a pleasure to have you on this podcast. And I hope the listener will I have taken notes. Literally. There is no way I didn't. So I hope the people have done the same and they will gain some insight and knowledge and improve their freedom.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Vivian.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.